tell you that you're out of town.
For some reason,
Goodbye.
Jesus. Oh my God. And it's actually
So yeah.
Asian.
Once again, my did I ever told you this? God gives us his families that God we think our friends.
Yes.
Hi, Eric.
So I didn't know if you were waving over this way. Cheers. I'm excellent. How are you?
Not even close.
So you all set?
You guys did a good job. You did a good presentation.
We expect no more than 5 minutes each.
I may have to take you up on the offer of saying a few words for us.
But if you do, I was thinking about it, 'cause I looked over your thing tonight, and you do work a fair amount in a couple of areas. Why don't you send me some backups and what the increase cost is. Price increase, you should grade.
And that's it. It was purely the grading. So, and I'll send it when it's on.
There's a couple of bullets in there.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I'm gonna touch base with Ginger at the end of the week, see how the town's looking, if I need to or not, kind of thing. And then, but I'll be working until at least like noontime, 1 o'clock. I might try to come in after if you guys have a little lunch.
School usually has their stuff together, but it's been done like that.
That's what I figured, so I'll probably miss it. But our raising of a couple bucks, it was actually brought up by not only like permanent residents, but seasonal that are still hunting. And we had a huge turnout this summer. We did a bunch of work on right from Gulf Road all the way to the end. Everything that was dirt we touched. And it's been well received.
Because we're doing the same thing, we're finding every year.
No, you're waiting for next Saturday.
Pour a little more money into the roads.
Districts based on the population.
Actually, that is this week, isn't it?
Later this week.
I'm intrigued. You have my attention.
Number today is like 37.
I was down, signing. Everything else I've got going on, I'm really losing positions. I need to start working on it. Anyway, I noticed they have a board with some kind of programs back in place somewhere.
Yeah. She's been going there for a while. The lady that owns the place, Rebecca, and her boyfriend John, they're amazing people. We've known them for a while now, and actually, when we went to Alaska, she managed our cat call and helped us with that. She lives close by. They're wicked good people.
How's Ashley and the kids?
Lives up there.
I was a member of it.
Somewhere other than that.
Busy holiday season.
I just stopped going to get surgeries and things, so I stopped going.
I'll be right back.
But no, yeah,
Time to go back.
she's there almost every morning before work. And she's been crushing it. Makes me feel like a loser when I'm just playing video games at night. But
Anyway, I thought that was kind of interesting.
yeah, absolutely.
Did you get my email on the cruises?
I doubt that anybody looks, realtor.com and says, I want to do this.
Yeah, I understand. I mean, it was good, no, I understand. But I just like to get it at some point so I can see
One of those dimensions.
what he's got for mileage and stuff. That's,
We open here.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think we should do Saturday's meeting here too. Sound quality, I've got hearing aids, I can only get maybe 25% of what's being said.
What was that?
Does it work?
Yeah, P-Buck. What was that? Well, it went down.
I
Yeah.
can share with you that.
$1,000
These aren't helping me at all.
And then it's $150 for him to come back and touch up salt or sand. So if you need it, let us know and we'll have the guy down there in an hour. I think we've already paid for 8 or 9 loads or whatever. Maybe not paid for, but
on my television,
negotiated it. Like if we need it, we pay for it. If not, we don't. But he knows it's just a text away. What was that? It was like 98. Yeah.
he was pretty quick.
Yeah, I can hear it. My wife doesn't like it because she can't talk to me. It's really, it's a game changer.
guess that's what
Everything starts to break down.
Yes, it is.
I like paying cash. I like paying cash.
So when you get in a plane to land on the lake as well? When you get in a plane to land at your house as well, like your neighbor around the corner? No planes for you?
Not in the cards, no. I got a big pontoon boat this year, but that's
Really?
traded in the Bombay. Grandkids love jumping off, going out the lake, just jumping off.
That's awesome.
You told me on the phone that you were No, I told you I left you a message on this.
Does that gentleman, does he live in like your Cove Village? What's that? Does he live in your district, like your Cove Village? The guy with the airplane?
No, it's not. No, it's just in our streets. We've got like 4 short roads that lead out to Route 4. They have to be defined as being anybody that has a driveway. I'm not making any rules associated with it.
A what? Oh, yeah.
Which is why I called both numbers that I had, so.
I have all the dates. 15. Good.
Okay. Figured I'd wait a couple of minutes. Okay, so we're going to call the Northwood Budget Committee work session of December 6th to order with a roll call. Tom?
Here?
Brad?
Here.
Tim? Here. Mike Moore?
Present?
Steve? Here. Betty?
Here.
Paul?
Here.
Ted?
Here.
Pam?
Present.
Jim?
Here.
Brian?
Here.
Eric?
Here.
And I am here. I do, Betsy, are you here?
Yes,
Okay. And your reason for electronic?
medical,
Okay, thank you. Bob Young and Mike Jobin are excused this evening. I haven't heard from Dan. He may be here shortly. He knows about the meeting, so. Okay. We left off on Saturday with, we need to start with the library, which begins on page 15. Mr. Chase.
If I understand correctly, listening to and trying to recall the discussion about the library on Saturday, one of the things that the select board said, and I looked at Jim and Hal to verify this, was that when they looked at the funding that the library presented, they were mostly concerned about the differential between the default budget and what the library was asking for. They came up with a number that they would request the library to live with. And they were also went on to say that in their thinking about that amount, that they didn't want to shortchange the funding for the staff. That they felt that the library's decisions around paying their senior excellent librarian as much money as she was going to get, paying the assistant now full-time position and so forth, they basically agreed with the amount that they wanted to spend on personnel. And what they hoped was that the amount they wanted to spend on other things could be diminished, so that they could come in at a figure of $212,000 versus the $235,000 that the librarian and the library and its supporters had asked for. And I said, well, if you're interested in simply preserving what the library is asking for in terms of wages and salaries, and I didn't go into all of the other benefits. And if you look back on page 15, if I calculated the sum that the default budget was allowing, it was allowing $117,000. That's the sum of the 50, 50, 15, and 900 and change. And I got $117,295. So that's the amount that the default budget would put in place for that spending. Meanwhile, the librarian budget asked for, the quote department head request was from $140,000. The differential there was $23,300 as I subtracted 117 from 140. So the discrepancy at that point was $23,300. And I said, well, I go back over here to what the default budget was going to give them, which was $207,000, and I gave them that differential, which was $23,300, and that would bring them up to a total of $230,300, which is less than they asked for, because I'm asking them to live with the default budget for non-salary related expenses. So it's $7,000 less than they're asking for, but it seems to me to be a more appropriate figure than what the Board of Selectmen did when they reduced their figure by $25,000. So that would be a starting point for me to look at, well, how much money do we want to put in the budget? Do we want to okay in the budget for the library? My suggestion, based on that kind of back of an envelope figuring, would be $230,300. And it saves me, and once more, the library has, as much as any other department, told us what they want to spend their money for in detail. What they didn't provide this time, which I am sorry they didn't, but I understand that it was presented to the Board of Selectmen, were all of the services that they provide in terms of number of visits. I did hear that we had, 2,400 Northwood residents have library cards. Number of visits, usage by the people, which is always good to know. And I'm sorry, I assume that even in spite of COVID, that service to the community has continued. So my impulse is to give them not all the money they asked for, but to give them a lot of the money that they asked for, particularly for the personnel part of the budget. Thanks.
Other comments or questions? Jim, do you want to refer to Mr. Carter?
Sure.
Hal?
Clarify the,
Leave it, Mark. I don't know if it'll stretch that far.
Try it.
it's
There's
more cord,
to
it's just,
be-
Yeah, that'll work. No, this is for Betsy.
Maybe what I should do is just sort of recap the board's discussion so it's clear to everybody. So what we did was we looked at 2018. In the 2018, the bottom line number on the library is $206,000. If you look up into the associated health pool, there's zero. That's because all the health-related benefits that particular year were included in the library's line items. So for 2018, we used $206,000 for the library. Then in 2019, we did the same thing because, again, the health benefits were included in the 2019 library list of line items. When it came to 2020, the bottom line on the library was $175,000. But that does not include approximately $17,000, which is associated with the health pool benefits for the library. So that brings 2020 to approximately $192,000. Then in 2021, we're projecting, but order of magnitude, we're expecting that they're going to come in around 180 on the line items listed, 18,000 for the health pool for a total of 200,000. So we looked at it like for the past 4 years, the total funding, including all the health benefits and everything, averaged approximately $200,000. We then looked at the 2022 request, which is order of magnitude $238,000. To that, we added $38,000, which is $19,000 for the original employee that got benefits, plus another $19,000 for the new employee that's going to get benefits. So that totals a total of $276,000, which is, again, according to our very rough calculations, 38, and I know I said Saturday 40%, but you can figure 38%. We did not, as Tom did, try to get into a lot of discussion about it. We just said that that would be a hard sell, given that this affects the overall budget. We said we did agree that it's going to be hard to hire people, so we certainly said we were going to leave the $38,000 in the health pool. And we said we really don't know the best way to reduce, but we'd like to see approximately $25,000 less overall. So instead of going from $200,000 to $276,000, we said we'd like it to go to $251,000, which is about a 25% increase, when again you include all the associated costs. So that was the basis for ours. We did not get into a lot of discussion regarding, as Tom was talking about, payroll versus this versus that. The only thing we really recognized was it's going to be difficult for them to hire people, and we supported not taking any money out of the insurance pool. So that was the basis for the select board discussion.
Yeah. So your
Yes,
212,
Paul?
your 212 is the
And the
equivalent.
mic, please.
Oh, I'm sorry. Your 212 that you have listed on the budget sheet is the equivalent to 250 when you include all the benefits that
Yes,
would have been in
because
previous years.
we looked at it from an overall, all costs in perspective.
Other discussion? As I'm looking through this, it appears as though one of the areas of significant increase is on page 16, and that's the building maintenance and repairs. And seeing as how we've had a default budget for the last 3 years, I'm going on the presumption that the library, just as all of the other departments, have been only spending what they absolutely needed to spend because of the default budget. Which means most people didn't get raises, and a lot of work got put off. Not just at the library, but at most of the town departments. It's a lousy situation, but work has to get done. You can only go so long not stripping floors or what have you, only doing the very basics that you have to do. And as we've already heard from other departments, we need people to be working here. And yeah, it's an employee market right now. Basically, any employee can go anywhere and pretty much name their price. Obviously, we can't afford to do that. But let's keep in mind that most of these employees have not had raises for the last 3 years. When I'm done, Tim. I'd like us to think about that. Personally, I think Tom's suggestion is a good compromise between what the library trustees feel that they need and what the selectmen would hope that they would reduce their budget by. I noticed that the other departments' budgets were not drastically reduced. There were a few reductions here or there, but not to the extent that the library was hit. Personally, I think the 230,300 is a reasonable figure. Kim?
So, I sincerely had hoped that this wouldn't come up. And I want to correct a couple of things. Number one, I think if you would go back to the library, you would find that what you said is absolutely untrue, that they all received raises last year.
I would have to go back and
Okay,
check.
please do. But the fact is I didn't bring it with me, but I know that's just untrue, because I did it right to know. And I also did not want to bring this up, but I'm going to bring it up because I totally disagree with you. Everyone at the library got a Christmas bonus. Nobody else, no other employee in this town got a Christmas bonus, except everybody in the library. So I'm just saying that what you said is just not true.
Thank you for the information. Paul?
I just like to quickly look at the building maintenance. I mean, in 2018, we spent $8,000. 2019, we spent $2,000. 2020, we spent $10,000. We're asking for $20,000.
No, in 20 we spent 5,500.
You're right. Circled the wrong one. It's even worse. 5,500, and now we're asking for 20. Now, 18 and 19, COVID wasn't in play. And certainly, if we had maintenance to do, 21 would have been a great year to do it, because the library wasn't open for most of the year. But now we're at 20,000 in 2022.
Betty?
Much of that change is from changing some things from contracted services. into building maintenance.
That accounts for about 3,000 or 4,000 of it, you're right. Still doesn't get us to the 19.
Well, if we look at the amounts in 2021 for the default budget, for building maintenance of 9265 and contracted services of 15,600, you're looking at 25,000.
Yeah, if I look what I actually spent, I'm looking at 15.
Comparing the defaults as opposed to this requested.
Just looking at actual numbers.
Well, if you want to look at actual numbers, yes, you can see that they didn't spend everything that was on the line to spend because they were trying to hold the line, like other departments would do. What I was looking at is the amount that the default budget gave them between those two lines, as opposed to what's being requested now.
Well, that would be 30.
And it's about $4,000 difference.
Yeah. Well, like 30,000 versus, yeah, about 21 maybe. 24, 25.
21, 19.6 and 10.5
It is,
would be roughly 30,000.
right. You get about 25.
I'm not talking, you can't compare what they're I'm not comparing what they requested versus what they spent
Just
last
looking at the
year.
default budget.
I'm looking at the default budget.
9.2 and 15.6.
Right,
That's 25 versus
Right.
30 we're asking for this next year.
correct. $5,000 difference,
$5,000.
May I?
okay? I'm not sure who had their hands up first. Pam?
Thank you. Up on the book return line, that's 6,337. I believe that was discussed to us that that is a new purchase for the replacement of the book bin. So there's 6,000 right there because the current book bin is in bad condition. Deposits are being damaged by water, and that's something that needs to be corrected. So I think part of your increase in expenditure is right there on the book bin.
Good point. Ted?
Deferred maintenance is always more expensive. The cost keeps on going up. You cannot keep kicking the can down the road. And so I disagree with the thrust of Paul's argument that, well, because the actuals were down in the last couple of years of the pandemic, therefore they don't need any more money. Quite to the contrary, they do need more because of deferred maintenance. That said, I agree with Tom's suggestion. I think perhaps this budget, the line for the library can be cut prudentially, but I certainly agree that we need to pay our people at the library and everybody else in town what they are worth in order to get good service.
Mr. Moore?
So, we've been under default for a few years, and so there's a lot of, I would just like to know, is there any other department that's looking to increase their budget in excess of 30%?
I would have to look. Gentlemen, do you know?
I don't think there is.
I would just caution as you try to page through, looking at the percent changes, in some cases Cheryl has prorated some things that were not prorated in previous years, so just be careful as you're looking through, because some of them will show a significant increase, but that's because, for example, we might have prorated some of the land use specialists specifically to different departments as opposed to holding it that cost separately in past years. So just be careful as you're looking.
Well, as an example, the finance department, which happened to be the first one I came to, on page 3. If you look at the increase, decrease percentage column, page 3, is the department head, board of selectmen, our budget, dollar increase. The next line is the increase, decrease percentage versus the 2021 default. For that department, it's a 27.52% increase. Yes, Hal?
Yeah, there again, I just caution you in terms of how you do your comparisons, because like in this case, and maybe Cheryl or Walter can speak to it more eloquently, there are some things in here that weren't in previous years, like we're doing the software update and things like that. So again,
Just
just
as
please,
they're-
please, factor those into your thinking.
Page 4, tax collector, town clerk. It's a 33.67% increase over the 2021 default.
That was computers again.
It's because you've added
No,
a
the
full-time.
computers were not going to be
It's
purchased.
because you've added a full-time employee instead of a part-time employee.
Understood, but the question was, were there other departments that went up that much?
And that budget's $130,000, less than half of what the other budget is.
I don't think we're getting 30%. It looks 2.82%.
May I, Madam Chair?
Oh, I'm sorry, yes.
If you wanted
Yeah.
a really good one, I think the planning board is like 150%.
Can you give me a page, Tim?
Page 6 up top. Versus the default 184%. One of the things that kind of irritated me, for those of you who don't know, I'm the chair of the planning board. We did not get this form when we were asked to do the budget, when the planning board was asked to do the budget. We received, I happen to have it here, just in case this came up, a very much shorter version of a budget, which was 44,000. But because of my understanding is because of the software that the town is purchasing, there are many, many, many cases in this budget where things have been moved around, they have divided 25, 50, 20,
Yep.
and such. So we never had the employees in the budget before. And so that's why you're seeing such a, huge number, 184, 150% increase, is because it's entirely presented to you or to us entirely different than it has been in previous years. And I'm not saying anything's wrong with that, just that there are places in this budget that are skewed because of that, and hopefully next year we won't have that issue.
It's true, because the numbers will all be
I hope so.
comparing apples to apples, hopefully, at that point.
So I want to
Mr.
thank
Chase.
Mr. Moore for taking a stab at finding some rational way in which to evaluate the library budget versus the budget for other departments. But I think Tim has just eloquently said that it's hard to compare as a function of what's moved in, what's moved out, what you need to spend money on, what you don't need to spend money on. Which is why I go back to what the budget for the library itself, rather than think about either what some other department is spending and why, as a function of what's been moved in, what's been moved out. I don't find it terribly illustrative to look at what Deerfield and Nottingham are spending on their libraries, which is why I want to just look within this, understand, as Hal has agreed, that what we're trying to do is pay people fairly and retain them and appreciate them, and then try and take into consideration that we all want to try and minimize the actual dollar impact on the taxpayers, even as we try to maximize the benefit to the citizens, which of course is a larger number than the taxpayers. So it's a tough balance, but that's why I stayed within their budget, as I looked at, how do we want to fund it.
Yes, Jim?
When I did this, because I've not been through a budget process before, I kind of prioritized or looked at the whole town as a whole. Because if we're going to take each department, it's kind of hard for me to do that, because I'll just be honest with you, I have no clue what the library needs. In fact, when they came before the select board, the only item I discussed was something I knew about and questioned, was about their water system and the salt usage, because I have one. So I think when we try to nitpick each piece of each budget, not kind of working there or fully understanding, we can get in the weeds there. But when I looked at the overall budget, thinking, prioritizing it, not that any's more priority or not, but what would the town people want? I'm a taxpayer, so I'm looking at it from a taxpayer's point of view. What would I use and what's important to me? So the first couple things I looked at was the police and fire, obviously. Next was roads. We want good roads, we want them plowed, we want them clean, we don't want potholes. Next I thought was a transfer station, and I will surprise you that probably many of you saw me out down by the transfer station with my sign waving when you went by. I was shocked how many people use the transfer station. I have lived here for years and never used it. Never did. In fact, the first time I used it was just once this year. I went up there and used it because I had to, because I've had other means of getting rid of my trash. And I'll be honest, I was shocked how many, on a Wednesday at 1 in the afternoon, how many people actually went by. So I'm like, wow, this is something that's valuable to the town. So I kind of looked at it that way, and when you look at the transfer station, they have sanitation removal too. So when I looked at the budget, I kind of categorized the bottom lines on all that. And there were kind of two concerns I had, or questions, I shouldn't say concerns, there were questions as to, when we looked at the budget, the library came out on top of the transfer station and sanitation removal. So I'm like, okay, I'm not sure that's where that ought to fit, but that's how I looked at it. And then my other thing was, I looked at the bottom of the barrel was actually our building code inspector. And I thought, he was all the way at the bottom as far as the expense. Now, some people may look at it differently. That's just the way I approached it, looking at it for my first time. So that's why I kind of was concerned, like we talked about with the bottom number, because that's all I was looking at, was the bottom number of each department. Because if we look at each department, everybody is going to have their own little, how do I put it? I'm glad they're here. They want what they want, and that's honorable. That's what they ought to be doing. Each department ought to be here, be fighting for their budget. But when I'm looking at it, too, on top of that is me as the taxpayer and all of the taxpayers. If we were to go through another shutdown or situation in town, we found out the transfer station got excessively used during COVID time when people were cleaning out stuff. We had a hard time manning it. I wasn't exactly here then, but the usage got really high up there because of that. And then also in the summertime, we almost double in population here. So I only found that out through a police officer I talked to one day, that their calls skyrocket in the summer. Why? We have people influx in, there's more adult beverages being consumed in the summer, and there's more situations. So yes, maybe at this time of the year, things trend down a little bit, but we have these waves that we try to even out and compensate for. So I took all that in view when I looked at everything. So I think if we kind of keep looking at each individual department, yes, some are going to be, because honestly, I've never been in the library. So, never been in there.
No card?
Nope. Nothing. I do everything online. But I mean, I understand the need. People go there. I live by there. I see vehicles there. You know, I'm not trying to say one is more important than the other, or one is whatever. But when we look at the overall budget, as we said, let's be honest, we've been in a default budget, like I said Saturday. If we're going to present a budget that people are going to say okay to, we have to do something. And present the best budget we can, understanding, yes, people need raises. Yes, we need places fixed. We need to upgrade things. But let's do it in a littler increments. You know, it's going to be a great blessing. We were able to knock the tax rate way down this year. So let's kind of keep the momentum going in a positive way and get the thing passed. So, thank you, Madam.
Betty?
Number of points. If you haven't been to the library, you have no idea what's done there. And a lot of it is done online. And a lot of people come in there to use the computers and go online when their online at their homes does not work. If you haven't seen the library, aside from just noticing cars in the parking lot, then you have no basis to speak about what the library does or does not. Aside from that, I do believe you are still confused on the salt problem. It does matter how many people are using it, how much you're using. It does matter whether only 2 people are using it or a number of people frequently. Aside from that, I'm not really sure what to tell you.
Brad?
Follow a little bit what Jim was saying. I think, to me, we're kind of missing the big picture here. We can go through each department, and everybody makes a great case for what they need. We've hired people who've been trying to move on during default years. I get all that. But the fact is, we're sitting here looking at almost a 10% increase in the budget. And you just have to ask yourself, is that going to fly? And if it's not, then we need to say, what number do we feel comfortable presenting to the public? 5% increase? If that's the case, then we need to pick that number. Or, alternatively, throw this budget out there and go back to another default budget, and you'll get your savings one way or another. That's what the town's going to vote on, in my mind. So to me, we're just kind of swimming upstream here on trying to pick out nickels and dimes where, you know, we really need to be looking at maybe $130,000, $140,000 coming out of this budget.
And where would we make that?
Well, that's a dilemma, because we've made decisions, we've hired people, so, you know, and we've increased wages and salaries. I mean, 80% of the budget, maybe 85%, is all in people. Mm-hmm. It's in salaries, benefits, blah, blah, blah.
And that's,
you know, so I don't know. So, but that said, you've been on a default budget for the last 2 or 3 years, and what do? We turned $200,000 back to reduce taxes this year. We've got over $300,000 in warrant articles that are being funded by the, you know, so we've had $500,000 this year left over from a default budget to me, that's a hard sell that's a hard
Now,
sell.
that wasn't what was left over from the default budget. And I would ask Walter to please explain how those
I
are,
understand it's an accumulation, but maybe it's over 2 or 3 years, but it is what it is this year.
True.
The
Oh, yeah.
number's there. It's like $330,000 in coming from the unassigned balance. Plus you reduce taxes, which is great for $200,000, but how do you reconcile that you've been working on those default budgets all these years and you've been you've done a great job of managing the expenses, but you're kind of at a tipping point because you've made all these changes in salaries and benefits that you can't go back on, right? You know, so you're in a tough spot right now. I don't know where you're going to find that 5% that needs to come out. Where you're going to find that 5% that needs to come out. But, you know, you could go through, I mean, our only problem is we can vote on the bottom number, but we need to put a document up to the DRA where that comes out of.
correct.
You know, so you could selectively just say, the heck with it, let's go back to personnel management and take half of their increase out and just go back to the default budget, because that's where it's going to wind up eventually, if we don't do something. And we can sit here and pass this budget and lick our wounds afterwards that we put a good budget out there, but the town didn't accept it, when I'm pretty sure we know the answer to that already. That's just where I'm coming through. I have a hard time accepting this budget, dollar-wise. I understand all the specific needs and where they're coming from, but I just think we're looking at it in the wrong perspective, that we need to know what the end number is we want to present to the town and just go back and make it look that way. You can assign some of the default numbers that are going to be the numbers you're going to get anyway. You can plow that up to the DRA and the MS 737 or whatever form it is to satisfy that. In the end, the town's left with managing that bottom line number, as they have been for the last 3 years, finding ways to work with the number the budget number that they actually have. Anyway, that's what I'm at.
So my response to that is this. As you pointed out, the largest portion of the increase is in salaries and benefits. So if those salaries and benefits are going to remain in place, and we're going to reduce the overall budget by X%, what's that going to come out of? It's going to come out of the things that are needed to do the jobs that need to be done.
Turn that around, Ginger. If you plow ahead with it the way it is, you're going to be faced with a budget that's a default budget. So it's going to come out one way or another. It's going to come out more extreme. I think Jim made a good point. Instead of going for 10%, let's go for 3 or 4 or 5%, and figure out where to make those numbers look that way, so that we can present it to and leave the town to manage it the way they have to manage it. Because the alternative is, to me, the alternative is not very attractive, another default budget. Because we'll be sitting here looking at a 15% increase next year because we kicked the can down the road again.
Madam Chair,
Tim, one moment. Yes, Linda.
just a point. Ms. Coburn decided to leave the meeting, so she
Oh.
is not.
Okay, you
Part of the
recorded the time that?
Yep.
Okay, thank
you.
you. Tim, you had something.
Yeah, I'd like to thank Brad. That was the first sensible conversation I've heard so far.
Thank you, Jim.
I could sit here, and you can all think that all I care about is a default budget. That I think that's the most solid thing for the town, and nothing could be further from the truth. I have to say that I can't imagine being more disappointed in the select board for the budget that they gave to the budget committee. I really feel very, very strongly that this should be in the 2 to 3%. And then I believe it was in 2013, maybe 2014, the select board did a fairly intelligent thing, and they did a warrant article, a separate warrant article. asking for a 2% cost of living adjustment for the employees. It overwhelmingly passed. And I think, not from the select board, but as a petition warrant article, you're going to see that this year. Because the one thing that really bothers me about really practically the only thing that really bothers me about the default budget is the little people get hurt. And that does bother me. However, we select or elect a board of selectmen to bring to us a budget, and then it is the job of this committee to present to the town a budget that they can get behind, and they haven't done that for 3 years straight. And this budget, I would really give you wonderful odds, if you want to place a money bet on it, that this budget, if left alone, will be very, very, very rudely turned down. It's not a fair budget for the town. When you look at the economy, and you know what it costs to buy gas, what it costs to get hamburger now, you know, $5, $6 a pound for hamburger, and I could go on and on. So I do want to see the people get raises. I absolutely do. And I think that's only fair, based on, in some cases, COLA, and in some cases, performance. But we still, if left alone, honestly, I would give you tremendous odds that you will have the default budget once again. And correctly so, in my opinion. This is not a fair budget to the taxpayers. Thank you.
And surprisingly, I don't disagree with your suggestion of a warrant article for a COLA, but it would need to be across the board, and I don't know how we can pull those numbers out.
Well, can I speak?
You may.
All right. So I'm working on that, and eventually what I mean to do, because I'm not privy, I don't have the ability to get those numbers. But I mean to see that there is a petition warrant article on this issue, and I intend to go to the select board and ask them to have their financial officer tell me how much it would cost if every employee got a COLA. And I'm going to ask like a 1.5, a 2, 2.5. And then I intend to do the very best. I've already talked to some people that we put forth a petition warrant article to that effect, because I do think we're headed for the default budget, and if so, I would like to see the little people not get hammered.
Madam Chair, if I could, please.
Yes, Walter.
You do have that information in your packet. We provided that information in our supporting documents. Under personnel, where we've calculated a 1% adjustment for, because we were looking at adjusting our pay scale, a 1% adjustment over all of the current employees that we have. And obviously, you can simply factor to whatever percent you'd like to from that 1% basis.
It's in your packet.
So we received a few different ones, and I was trying to figure this out. We have one sheet that is the employee compensation wage pool calculations.
Next page is impact of 1%.
And then we have the 1%. These wages, Walter, on the sheet that is showing the 2022 department head plus 1%. Are those,
It's under personnel department.
yeah, it was under personnel department. Are those the current salaries right now plus 1%, or are those Because some departments had put pace increases in their proposed budgets. Yet it appears as though every department is listed here.
Yeah, on the one that includes all the members of the organization right now, that does include, the 1% cost of wages and taxes and benefits in the department.
Right.
And-
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, and again, this is based on their current wages, is that correct? Yeah. This is based on their current wages.
Okay, I want to check one thing for my own. It's a good thing we have more space today. You guys can bear with me for 1 second.
Personnel department. Find it?
Can I say something, Madam Chair?
Yes, go ahead.
Well, just something I want to throw in, and I know it complicates the matter, and I'm sorry for that, but it is something that I'm certainly thinking about. And that is that in 2021, the current year, I like to get my facts straight, and the easiest way to do that is through right to knows. So I did a right to know to the town and found that no one in the town, and so when I say town, I'm talking about not the library, who are kind of on their own, and not the police department, who are also on their own. They each have their own governing body. So the rest of the town, no one received a raise a COLA last year. If I remember right, Mr. Johnson said that 3 people, I think I'm right here, he can tell me if he remembers the right to know, 3 people did receive a cost of living, a market adjustment, I think, is that right? Market adjustment was the word he used. I don't know who those are, I didn't really care. I was really trying to find out, had employees in the town received wages? The exception to that is, of course, the 2 other bodies, and that is the library, who they gave out raises. As far as I know, to everybody. I do have a list, but I think to everybody. And the police department, on a 2 to 3 vote, gave raises to everybody. So my problem, which I'm working with certain other people trying to figure out, is it doesn't seem quite fair that those people would get the same cost of living increase as the ones who received nothing. And to me, we're one town. If we all have to suffer, we all suffer. And if we all can get a bonus, we should all get the bonus, not just a few. That's just the way I look at it, right or wrong, is that it's one town. So if you're an employee on the road department and you don't get a raise, but you know that this group over here did get raises, that's kind of hurtful. And at least it would be to me.
Ginger?
Yes, ma'am.
I would like to explain those bonuses.
Well, I wasn't.
They did not come out of taxpayer money.
I didn't talk bonuses. I was talking raises.
No, you had mentioned earlier.
I did earlier, yes. And I understand they came out of another fund, but it was so.
You didn't say that at the time, so that's what you have to clarify.
Good. Sorry, Betty.
I'm still trying to understand, Walter, this sheet, because I'm looking at this, and I picked 2 salaries. The town administrators and the police chiefs. And maybe those were the wrong 2 to choose, but I took what is in the line for the requested, for the department head, and multiplied that and added a 1%, And that's what's showing on this sheet with a 1% increase in both cases. But there's a significant difference in even the requested from 2021 to the requested for 2022, which brings me back to my question. How can we determine, I don't believe it can be done tonight, but how can it be determined what a 2% COLA would be across the board? Was that clear?
So the COLAs, the way we have to figure COLAs is based on our step scale.
Which nobody is on. Not according to the step scale that you provided us, because I've checked every department. I've checked every employee. There isn't one that is, the current pay rate is what that wage and step scale shows should be.
I would take a differ on that.
Okay. If you can point out where I missed it, I would be very pleased. Unfortunately, I believe the last few years we've ended up, or the selectmen have ended up paying what the market required to get the personnel that we needed, and it didn't necessarily follow the wage scale.
I think that's true in a couple of cases, but mainly in the
I'm sorry?
senior, like the senior staff perhaps, but as far as all the hourly employees and so forth.
Nope, check them all.
What scale are you using? Can you show it to me?
Yeah, this is the one that was, oh, the scale itself. That's the one that we received.
Oh, that's the proposed 22 scale.
Yeah.
That's why.
Yeah, and nothing is, and the proposed rate,
That's why nobody's on that scale,
No, no,
because
no.
it's a 22 scale.
I checked both.
Mhm.
I looked at the 2022 and compared it with that, and it's not the same number.
That one's not in effect yet.
But it's being given to us for us to use.
That one, that steps that you have, that's not in effect yet, so nothing would match it.
Basically, my feeling is I can't use any of these because nothing matches. I honestly don't know what we can do, guys. I'm open to suggestions.
What are you talking about we can do? I'm not sure I understand. You mean us do a warrant article?
No.
Okay.
No. I think pretty much everybody is in agreement that in all likelihood, the selectmen's proposed budget as it stands would probably not pass.
Not in agreement.
You believe that the
I'm not
selectmen's...
saying I agree or not, I'm just saying that the people of Northwood have that right to
Oh,
cast their ballot.
absolutely.
And I don't believe that we should be automatically assuming the negative and automatically assuming doom. I just believe that a lot of people, if they really truly knew, like say in a library situation, what the value is, what is, this expense, what does it mean? About keeping resources and having resources available. There's a lot of things in this budget that, whilst they are increases, I don't like taxes going up any more than anybody else. But I understand that cost of living has increased. I understand that the little guy needs a break. Believe me, I've been a little guy for a good part of my life. So the fact of the matter is that I can see that things cost more. I can see that things are expensive, but I also work and I pay and I earn my wages and I do a good job and I pay my fair share. So I can't believe that I'm the only one in Northwood that would look at the budget and not just think about myself, like, ooh, I don't go here and there, so that's not of value. I would think that sitting here, I'm looking at the budget as an overview, what we're supposed to do, vet this budget on behalf of the budget and the budget process. And whether or not I participate in something, there's a couple of things that I'm not too familiar with, but I see their value to others. So I'd like to not totally say that the people of Northwood, some years we receive letters that tell us to vote this way or that way. That's not to say that the people of Northwood won't see a different perspective, or that there's a huge majority that's going to do one thing. I think we're all over the map, and that there's a possibility that people will realize that when you default 2%, 3%, 2%, 1%, and eventually it adds up to, what are we at, 9% on this budget? It adds up because you put off, and maybe if they go to default this year, then in the kicking the can, you kick the can, and what's it going to be next year, 10, 11%? It would be inconceivable that a budget would ever pass with that kind of thinking. So there has to be some positivity that occurs, that maybe our town does need these things, and maybe we do need to look at the select board's proposal, maybe what Tom has said, and try to deal with, what is right for Northwood as opposed to what is right for each one of us at the moment. Act as a committee.
Ted?
I agree with the folks who think that this current budget stands a chance in hell of passing. It pains me to say so, but it's quite obvious to me that that is the case. It pains me to say that the dysfunction from the Board of Selectmen, year after year after year, failing to prudently manage the affairs of the town, failing to spend the money that they took from us taxpayers. They tell us they've got a multi-million-dollar slush fund, but don't worry, we got a plan. No, that is not prudent governance. And we have spent many, many hours, I have spent many hours in the last few years taking my role seriously on the budget committee. We go through these things in excruciating detail and argue about individual lines, which we're supposed to do. It's part of, but where is the leadership from the Board of Selectmen? They are the ones who set the policy for the town. We're the budget committee. We're not supposed to be setting fiscal policy. We badly needed some educational program to inform the taxpayers and our fellow citizens of why it's important to have a prudent budget. But year after year, we've spent time, we've gone through it, and then the selectmen just throw it out the window. It doesn't seem to matter. They do whatever they want. I'm really frustrated, and I do think we need to cut back this budget somehow. I don't know how. I don't have a silver bullet, but by God, if we go forward and rubber stamp this thing, it's going to fail.
Brad?
I kind of agree with both of these points that were just made by Pam and Ted. The problem here is that we sit here looking at this detail and say, boy, this really makes sense. These people really need a raise. We really need these positions. Nobody sees that. What they see and vote on is this. It's a bottom line number. There's no parsing. There's no sales. Nobody's out selling the Build Better program, however that goes, on TV every night, So they don't get that. And you get 100 people, maybe if that show up at the deliberative session to get any kind of detail or questions. So that's not what goes in. So people are voting emotionally. Emotionally says, wow, 10% increase, it's not going to fly. Not going to fly. So if you go with this, you need to market it somehow. And I don't think we've ever been proven to be able to do that. And I don't feel comfortable putting my name on a document that I think it's just too much. And I agree with Ted. I don't know exactly where to take that from. I have some ideas. I mean, I would take just some of the departments, put it back to the default budget, that it would be, that's at the default. Make the number come out to be where we want it to be. Let the town's gonna have to figure out how to manage the money that we give them. And they don't manage department by department anyway. They take money from wherever they need it and get it. They're not required to spend it by individual departments. They have a bottom line number that they have to meet. And that's really the end of the game. So what we're really talking about here is how we present it to the DRA in the forms that we need to submit.
Right.
And I mean, I know that we do this, I send up an MS 737 every year to them, and a budget's a budget. It's meant to be flexible, it's meant to they give us latitude to spend it wherever we need to spend it, however we need to do it. And I think you guys have proven that you've been pretty effective at covering the changes you've made and still managing the town and getting things done. So in my mind, I'm willing to give you another 4 or 5% to do that, but I'm not going to give you 10% to do it.
May I make a comment?
You may.
Thank you. We're getting in a spitting contest over who's doing what. It's not going to accomplish anything tonight. So I'm the new guy. I agree with a lot of what's been said initially until I actually sat on the board and found out what it's actually like to run a town. And everyone can sit back and throw stones. That's cool. My biggest issue with this budget is calling it a selectman's budget. I mentioned that at the select board. There's two groups that I have no say over. I don't have any say over the library or the police. Those budgets are theirs. Has nothing to do with me. I can't say squat one about it. I tried, I did. So the other piece of this that I actually had I was able to actually deal with, we cut everywhere we could, knowing that it takes personnel to run the town. We want to keep the personnel. We gave them increases, and we cut back in every other area we could. So that was part of my issue. Why does it go forward as a selectman's budget when 2/3 of it ain't our budget? You know, type of thing. So we can sit there and go round and around tonight, but there's a football game on in a few minutes that I like to watch tonight, and I would not want to sit here that long. So can we work on the budget, please?
Can I speak, Madam Chair?
You may.
So, as I told you earlier in the meeting, Saturday, I came up, just with I think it was like $3,500, and that took an hour, and we got nowhere. So I quit. But personally, I have, and at some point when this is over, I'm going to make a motion that we reduce the budget a certain amount, and I'm perfectly willing to tell you exactly where I think the budget should be reduced. And that wasn't in the library, below what it has now, from the select board. I truly am sorry that I was pushed into bringing up the raises and the bonuses. I did not want to do that. I didn't think it was necessary. But in fact, if I go to the town and say, there's a new police officer in the budget. Oh, by the way, they already filled it. They're still waiting on 2 police vehicles, but yet they have another one of those in the budget. Oh, did you know that there's 6 months of rental of a excavator in the budget? And of course, if we do that, we're going to have to start talking about extra people. And you know what I'm going to say, and as I said to someone in a discussion about the library, I said, that's really a dumb bunch of ammunition to give Tim Janderberg, because that's what it is. Because I don't feel the budget is fair. And not only do I think the budget needs to be fair, I think it needs to be slightly less than fair, so that we can get on a positive track That's how I feel. So to my mind, a 3% budget with a warrant article that I guarantee you will pass, given a COLA to all of the employees, which will raise it another, the budget, the warrant article that I mentioned, and I'm just going to say that I don't think there's a big difference now in the amount of people we have, was 29,000, I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty positive that that's what it was. And that was a 2%, as I recall. A 2% COLA was like $29,000. So that would bring the budget up, that, you know, to more like 3.5 or something like that. I'm using rough numbers, sorry. But I personally am quite prepared to say where I want to see some changes made, so that this budget, so that we could present to the town a budget that I could get behind and would. Thank you.
Other comments? Okay, what I've been working on while I've been listening to everybody is to figure out what the increase would be over the 2022 default figure that the selectmen has provided of $3,732,148. That's the minimum that the town is going to approve. I took a 5% increase on that, and it's $186,607 increase.
Excuse me, are you starting with the default amount?
I'm starting with the default of 2022, the very last column.
The same number, which is the same number as the warrant article.
I'll take your word for it because I don't have it in front of me.
37, that 300.
Yeah, $3,732,148.
5%
A
of
5%
1 million.
would bring that up to $3,918,755.
You had how much? 181,000?
186,607.
607.
That's a 5% increase over the default budget.
And I did the math.
I'm working on a
with Tim.
3% right now because Tim had
It's
mentioned a 3%.
111,964.44, 3%.
My 3% is over this year's default budget.
Which is,
But
you gotta
you
go
have
by,
to use
yeah, you have to go by 2022.
I don't have to use anything.
Well, the reason, okay, let me rephrase. The reason I would suggest using the proposed default is because that includes any contractual changes which we are obligated to pay, and it eliminates any one-time charges or fees. You might as well use the one from 2 years ago.
Yeah, you gotta use 2022 because of the contract.
Because that's the one that is going to be compared with. So my point is that if we determine a 3% increase over the default budget, then the selectmen can point out this is a 3% over the default budget and this is the dollar amount difference, or a 5%, as opposed to the 9.73% that the selectmen have proposed.
That's 3.7.
It is the budget that the budget committee is recommending to the voters. It is supposed to be a responsible budget, which means we do have to look at everything and determine, as much as we don't like to, department by department, line by line, because that's our job. Yes, the selectmen can move money around anywhere they want after whatever budget has been approved by the voters, as long as they don't overspend the bottom line. But we still have to, as Brad pointed out, we still have to come up with figures that have to go into the 737. And different departments have to go on different lines, which means we have to have department totals. So,
You're looking at a cut of, for 5%, of $144,609 off of the BOS proposal, I believe.
I just took the default, I didn't even utilize the selectmen's proposal.
No, I just, for the final math, if you use the default with 5%, and then you subtract your sum from the proposed budget, that means a cut across the board of 144,609. And then you'd have to break it down line by line.
It's gotta be more than that, or it won't be enough of, to Ted's point, to Tim's point, if there isn't a significant, if there is a significant difference between the default and what we recommend, I do believe that the majority of the voters will go with the lesser of the amounts. In order to get, in my mind, in order to get a recommended budget through, it has to be a much smaller difference, dollar-wise, between the proposed default of $3,000,007 versus what we recommend. I really dislike going at it from the bottom line and then saying, work it out. But
Somebody
I
brought
don't
that
know
up
what else we
before.
can do.
I think somebody brought that up on Saturday, the bottom line.
Madam Chair, if you use,
Mr. Tudor,
you use the
can you
3%,
use your mic, sir?
sorry.
That's okay. I just want to be sure they hear.
If you use your 3% number from default, the budget would be 3844122.
Correct, that's what I came up with. And I hadn't gotten to the point of checking the difference.
The 5% and the, what, 3%? It's about $75,000 difference between 3% and 5%.
No, it's 111,964. Well, I'm just, what I did was a proposed budget 3% higher than the default is $111,964 difference.
Right, and 5% that you brought up originally.
5% would be
is
$186,000
Yep,
difference.
right, and I said it's just a reduction from the proposed of 144,000. Same thing, same numbers.
Yeah, it is.
You can twist a number to say what you want, but it says the same thing.
So, I've been yapping a bit. What are the rest of you thinking? We need to do something. Tom?
I'm going to go back and review several things that I've said, and which have been, I think, echoed by several. And that is, I think it's real important, as Brad has said and Tim has said, that we present a budget to the town that they will accept. Listen, for me, continuing for another year where things are categorized and accounted for and in ways that are 3 and then 4 years old only makes things worse. From the standpoint of managing the budget and being able to explain to people what's going on and so forth. So I would really like us to develop a budget that the town will vote for. Second thing I think I said was that the closer you are to the default budget, the only way to, I think I also said the only way to guarantee that is that the amount you bring forward is less than the default budget. I did say that. And I still think that's true, that is the only way, because there are people who are going to walk in for the first time, they're going to look at this, and if they see a number for our budget that's bigger than a 3,7, they're going to vote against it. Their inclination would be to vote against it. You have a chance to pass it if that number is only a little bit bigger than the 3.7. The bigger it gets, the less chance you have. I think that when you see a 4 in front of the budget, it's dead on arrival. Okay? So then the question is, where along this continuum, from 1%, 2%, 3%, 4%, 5%, do you think there is a break point? 5%, I think, has the advantage, and maybe 6 would, I haven't done 6, but this 5% has the advantage of being under $4 million, if I'm not mistaken. So I would say, for me at least, the number's got to be 3, 9, and less. The number's got to be 3. How's that, Linda?
Much better.
Does it make any more, do I make more sense when it's loud?
No.
Yes. The other thing I sort of despair of is the difficulty of educating the population of this town. And in some ways, Jim's a perfect example of somebody who's lived here for 20 years and had never been to the library and only rarely been to the transfer station. And I don't think that you're completely atypical in that level of engagement. Not knowing, right? I've never had my house burned down, so I don't know what it's like to have the fire and emergency vehicles. Paul knows. That's probably become a big issue for him. But I've been to enough fires in Northwood that I know that's damn important. And I've also sent my child through elementary and high school here. And I think that's damn important. Although, just for your information, I have had people come up to me over the years and said, my kid have graduated, why do I need to keep paying for school? Had that? Some version of that. And people say, why do I have to keep paying property taxes to the school because my kids don't go to school here anymore?
Excuse me, guys. Jim,
So I'll try and wrap this up.
we can't hear, or she won't be able to hear on the tape. Sorry.
So I despair of educating enough people in the time we have available, particularly if I have to swim into the headwind of people who don't want to spend any money, period, on anything in the way of town services. And there are people like that. And even though I might be able to enlist the help of the folks in the fire department, in that community of people, and the people in the library, and that community of people, and the people around Jennings Pond who want to see the invasive species controlled, the people around Northwood Lake who want the town to continue to fund their milfoil program, I'm sure we could get some constituents who would say, yeah, we're going to support this because I see in the budget road paving that I want for my road this year, and milfoil management for my lake that I want this year, but I despair of getting, 51% of the vote if that number is a whole lot bigger than 3,900,000. Thank you.
Jim,
So I have an off-the-cuff suggestion. Sorry.
okay.
I think we should go, I'm suggesting that we go with either a 3% increase and a warrant article for a 2% COLA, or maybe 3, or go with a 4% increase, and the COLA should be included in the budget. And last but not least, did I confuse you?
not sure how you can include a COLA in the budget.
Well, it's in the budget right now,
Just not have the warrant article is what he should.
not have the warrant article. And last but not least, I don't think we should do it. I think we should turn this back to the select board and say, here's our problem, here's what we think. Could you produce for us by Wednesday night a 3% or a 4% that we would vote on, that we can get behind? And if not, then we'll just do what we have to do. Because the fact of the matter is, and I have been a selectman and I have run this town, or worked towards running this town, I believe that this is a selectman's issue, and I would like to see them address it. I think we would give them some good input. I think we have given them some good input, and allow them the opportunity to structure a budget that they can live with, and therefore we can live with. And nothing would make me happier than a budget that I could get behind. On either a 3% with a COLA warrant article or a 4% with a COLA included in the budget, I will get behind, personally. So that's the way I look at it. Thank you.
Brad?
Just looking for some clarification. Isn't the COLA already built into this budget,
Yes.
right? And I'm guessing that number, if we were able to pull it out, is something like $30,000 or something like that?
No, I think it's significantly more than that.
I don't know.
36.
It's a point and a half.
I don't trust the numbers that I was
It's a point and a
given.
half up against salary, right?
But some of them are already in here, and yet the sheet we were given with a 1% COLA is based off of salaries that were already increased
Right.
with a COLA.
Again, just looking at the big picture,
Yeah.
COLA is based on the total salaries that the town pays. Right?
Yeah, and split into the
Whatever,
departments that it
pick a
belongs
number,
to.
because it's not going to vary that much. I mean, I'm just talking big picture. But it's not in the order of magnitude of $100,000 or $75,000.
No.
It's more like $25,000 to $30,000.
32,000 maybe.
Yeah, probably it
I
is.
guess whatever
Closer to
wages
that,
are,
yeah.
maybe $1.5 million, $2 million, a point and a half is only, $30,000. So we can argue about that number, where it is and how we get at it, but it's already in the budget. So to Tim's point, it's already here. Again, back to we're looking at something like a 4% or 4.5% increase or 5%. I think we just need to pick a number.
Okay, so I'm doing the 4% right now.
I've got it if you want it, but,
Okay, what did you-
438.
434, I got it.
I've got 434.
Oh, you mean $4 difference? All right.
Yeah, well, hey, we count pennies here.
Everybody likes round numbers. So again,
I just want to see what that difference is.
4%.
again, the approach on this doesn't need to be.
4% higher than that.
Okay, so just so that we, and I like that idea of giving it back to the selectmen and let them figure out where the difference is. Just so we know.
Hal doesn't have a dagger or anything back there, does he?
Not yet, but I've been keeping an eye on it just in case. You're closer to him. I'm the one who would want to be doing.
3%.
Okay, a 3% increase
4, 5.
would be basically $112,000 higher than the 2022 default. That's a 3%. A 4% would be a $149,300 increase. And a 5% would be a $186,600 increase. So
What was the 3 again?
the 3 was 112,000. It's a few dollars short of that, but we'll round it up. So 112, 149, or 186,600. Because again, they're gonna be looking at that 3,732,000 on the warrant article. Ted had his hand up first.
Go, Ted.
I like the sound of the mid-range, I guess that would be the 4%. I think this is a terrible way to do budgeting, but the selectmen have left us no other choice. So we're gonna kick the ball back to them and see if they'll do their job for the first time in years. And I would be happy to support a 4% increase.
Me too.
I'll agree that.
Without the separate COLA warrant?
Without
That's
this,
correct, it's already.
without
The
the,
COLA's already in, so we don't.
It is already in, but I wanted clarity.
Why mess with that?
I wanted clarity. So you've got 3.9, 3 well, difference between
Well,
5 and 4
Five is
is,
gonna be over.
the difference between 5 and 4 is negligible. Well,
no, it's
not big.
There is a,
36 grand.
if I add the 4% in, which I think is 149, then I get a figure of $3,871,000, which has the advantage of being less than
Right.
$3,900,000.
What are you adding it to?
The default.
Adding it to the default budget of
The proposed default?
the proposed, well, the required default
Right.
of $3,732,000. And I'm leaving off the nickels and dimes, but you get that keeps the figure that you would present to the voters less than 4 million, which I think is catastrophic. And it's also less than, and I haven't actually added in the 5% to see where that gets me, but I
Yeah, it
think,
brings you up to 3,918,000 and change.
yeah, 9's a big number. 3871 is acceptable to me. I'm not sure if going at 4% with the COLA in is acceptable to Mr. Jandeberg.
4% with the COLA
Because, you know, Tim, if you and I agree on something,
I'm getting my calendar out.
Hey, put a star on the calendar, 2 or 3 maybe.
Can I say something?
Yes, go ahead, Tim.
So if this is what we're going to do, and we'll decide in a minute, I just want to make sure, and I hope I'm not the only one that pushes this, that the select board understand that why I personally want to see an increase is because I want the little people helped. The problem with, and it's fine with me, but the problem with, we need to hold their feet to the fire is that if the COLA is in the budget and they can say, yeah, the heck with you, we're going to go buy another car. And that bothers me immensely, and I hope they wouldn't do that. But they can. If the COLA is in a warrant article, then they can't. So I'm sorry to muddy the water. I do think a 4% with the COLA in is the way to go, but I just hope all of you on the side or whatever will just mention to them that we expect the little people to be taken care of in this. That's what the increase in my mind would be for. Thank you.
Mr. Winslow.
Yes.
I think the way to deal with that concern, and is actually the job of the budget committee, would be to find where the cuts are. If we're going to agree to a bottom line number, I don't think it's responsible of this committee to kick it back to the select board. The voters deserve to see what the select board has presented, and then deserve to see how we think we can make it lower. So that's what I think the process really should be, rather than we just want to see this number and you guys figure it out.
That's a point. I'm not sure who was up first. Tom, go ahead, and then Brad.
I just want to respond to that, which is, in a sense, where I started with the library, was to leave the little people. Is that everybody who gets paid by the town?
Yes.
Yes. The little people who get paid by the town leave what's been proposed in that instance uncut, and define cuts in the other areas of the department budgets that are not salary, wages, benefits, stuff.
Yeah, I think it's our job to do that at this point. so.
And I, on the other hand, would counter that by saying, line by line, that's tedious and gets past my level of expertise. And if I understand the way the select board can spend money, they can, once they get their budget, they can make whatever changes they want to make. So I would accept the notion of keep the salary, wages, little people intact, and go to each department and say, cut your budget by 4%, so that you get the bottom line, which would require that they actually cut their non-salary and wages expenses by more than 4%, because you're going to leave this high and you've got to bring that down. And I would leave it to both the select board as well as the departments to make those modifications. Some departments are pretty easy in the sense that, for example, the Conservation Commission or this Budget Committee, we don't have any direct, Linda, correct me if I'm wrong, do we have salary and wages in the Budget Committee's budget or the Conservation Commission's
No.
budget?
No.
So we would just have to go to our budgets and cut it by 4%.
I have a thought.
Folks watching the live stream, whether it's tonight or on a later date, as people keep leaning back away from the mics, nobody is going to hear anything you're saying. So please try to stay aware of that. I realize it's more comfortable to get back away from it, but
And I have
the rule is you got to have it with your elbow to your side and then pull it that close and they'll hear you.
I have a question for you, Linda, because you're the one that usually helps complete the 737. If this committee decided on a 4% increase over the default budget that we're showing here, wouldn't you be able to just add 4% to each department section, come up with a new number, and that would, because it's by department where it goes on to the 737, right?
Well, it's achievable, and I will defer to our finance specialist on that. And the reason is that those numbers are all now in a program that's going to pull everything, and she would be the person that would be making changes to that. So it's, the other thing is, though, 4% off of one department versus 4% off another department may not be.
Well, no, it would be adding 4% to the default figure for that
4%
department.
on
Right.
each, over the default. I'm sure that.
If you're trying to add 4% to the bottom line, you can't necessarily spread 4% to
Right.
each individual department budget because they're all different. It's not gonna work.
Madam Chair, could I also suggest that I feel very strongly that this is X amount of dollars. Let's say it's $200,000 less. I don't know what it is. That's a significant change to the select board in their management of this town. And that's why I feel that the correct thing to do is to let the select board then make the decisions so that they can say, okay, if we have $200,000 less, then maybe this big item over here, we don't need now. We'll put that off till next year. Looking at it in a CIP kind of way. Capital improvement plan, for those of you who don't quite don't know what that is. I just feel whether they're doing a good job or not, this would allow them to improve what they've done by allowing them to make the decision. We're still going to have the final say if for something, something they've done, but I do think that they are not going to take 4% across the board off. I think they're going to look at it and say, okay, well, we really did want this, but under the circumstances, we can't afford it. It's going to come out, and it might be a big item, or it might be 10 little items. But I personally would be much more comfortable as a budget committee member, and if I was a select board, that the select board have that decision. And I think they could get that done by Wednesday night.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Linda,
now I'm going to put on my hat as your staff person
please,
and make a recommendation.
please.
First of all, again, the job you have in front of you is to create a budget called the Budget Committee's Recommended Budget. The selectmen have recommended a budget. If you don't like that budget and want something different, then it's a task of this committee to determine where you'd like to make those changes. They will have the opportunity to manage whatever money they have after the voters have decided what that number is. At this stage in the game, time marches on. We're in December. There's so many days that you have to complete this process. We haven't gone into the warrant articles yet. I would highly recommend that you look at some areas, whether everybody's in agreement with it or not, make some numbers, and come up with if you decide you want to cut X amount out of one department, that'll go on the record. But they will have whatever funds they receive in 2022 to make decisions based on whatever that number is. First of all, they couldn't come back tomorrow night because they have to notice meetings, and to try to pull together a meeting and make these kind of decisions on the fly based on what's been presented at the Budget Committee would be unfair to them. Some haven't been here, and they have made their recommendation. And I suggest that you try to find whatever departments that you want to make cuts to come out to whatever dollar value you want. If it's the 4%, then go forward with it. We still have all the warrant articles to go through.
Right. What about this, guys? As Linda pointed out, we do have the warrant articles that we still have to go through. We do have a meeting scheduled, we have a meeting posted for Wednesday evening. If we can agree upon a percentage this evening, and we all go home, and we all we determine, God bless, we all determine that dollar value of a reduction that we're looking for. We can go through and, where would Eric take this? Where would Tom take this? Where would Stephen take this? And then we can compare them Wednesday night, and that be the only issue that we're working on Wednesday night. We can get through the rest of the warrant articles hopefully this evening. But either way, we're going to be back here Wednesday night because we're not going to get this done. As Linda said, we do have to point out where we are recommending those reductions come from. So at this point, I just want to clarify, it seems that 4% is acceptable to pretty much everybody, or you'll go along with that. My question to you is it 4% increase over what? The proposed default?
Yes.
Okay, I just want to clarify that. So if that's the case, then we're looking to find roughly $149,300 in savings.
And
Yes,
we're
Tom.
trying to preserve, and we're trying not to make those cuts in the areas of personnel.
Correct. Well, I would agree with that. I'm not sure what
In the
everybody
areas
else.
of personnel, and I don't have each department in front of me, either may have gone up 8%. And if a department went up 8% in personnel, in order to get the total department budget below 4%, cut of 4%, then we may have to make more serious cuts. My question to Linda as well as to our two staff people is, are you in a position to support that idea of taking departments and saying, okay, here's $200,000 for this department, $100,000 is salary, personnel, there's $100,000, and that's going to stay the same. What else is available, and give us a number for the non-personnel amounts for the non-personnel. This goes.
We pretty much have
This
that.
is,
We've got that.
right, this is,
But I don't want to go, Brad, what I don't want to necessarily do is to open up for example, on the last page, economic development, and say, okay, so here's the economic development. It has no personnel in it. That's pretty easy. We take the default amount and we increase it by 4%.
Well,
You can't do it that way. You have it
I'm not, I wouldn't approach it that way. I mean, you're tripping over $5 bills, picking up nickels here. It's like, you've got to go into this, if you're going to get this done, you've got to go in and find some of the big dollar items and just cut it. Stay away from the personnel if we can, but find the big dollar. I'm not going to go over every dollar item line in here and try to make this calculation. I'm going to go home, I'm going to look at the big dollar items, say, just randomly cut it out, because at the end of the day, it's not going to matter. It's not going to matter. So I'm not going to do a lot of hand wringing over this. And I agree, it would be great to have some input from the Board of Selectmen, if they have some ideas on, where they might be able to put off some things that could come out of the budget. I would like to have thought if they could have done that, they would have already done that. So.
did somebody else? Brian?
Yeah, I was just I think, Brad, I think the approach is probably, like, if you're looking at $150,000 in cuts about overall, just go through the budget, cut here, cut there, and add up to that amount.
Find the
and
big
that's
guys.
4%. So
Find the big ones.
I mean, if you want to find the big ones or, whatever, but I think if we're saying that we can get a budget lower than the budget than the select board, then that's
Again,
it. You look for a
trying
number,
to
you're gonna
provide
get
the
it.
select board with more dollars than they'll get if it goes to default.
Right.
And nobody's going to sit down and analyze what cuts we made where. We're just trying to reasonably come to that number so we can present a document that supports the dollars.
Walter has the mic.
Yes, Walter?
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify so I have a clear understanding here. So you're looking to have a budget that is $149,000 higher than the 2022 default budget, is that correct?
Correct.
And so, using that number, you're asking, you're going to reduce the select board's recommended budget by $182,216, is that correct?
149,000.
No, the 149
No,
is
that's-
the difference
That's okay.
between
You're right, exactly.
the default.
Do I have that correct?
22.
I'd have to do that second figure again.
Yeah, the selectmen minus,
So you're not looking for $149,000 cuts,
Right.
you're looking at
Right,
$182,000 cuts.
Right.
We're allowing increases. Put it another way, we're allowing increases of $149,000 or we're looking for cuts of 182.
Two from the selectmen's budget.
But
So come at it from either way.
those cuts are gonna come out of the $4 million, out of $1 million of that budget as it exists, because the rest of it's salaries and benefits. So if you're not gonna touch that, you've narrowed the window of what you're looking at that you can make the cuts from.
Right.
Which is doable,
Yeah, it's doable.
but again,
Shall we leave this to Wednesday and then?
Oh, yeah,
we could push it a little bit more for that. I like the 4% to 5% range, something less than 5, because I think people going into the polls can relate to the cost of living is going up 4 or 5% right now. And so, they would have some sense, well, oh, yeah, it makes sense that the budget's going up a little bit. Everybody's prices are going up. But 10%, I don't think anybody can relate to.
Ginger, I got a question.
Yes, sir.
On warrant articles that passed, on like the new fire truck, new ambulance and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Is there any way to extend those warrant articles out for another year?
Nope. Nope.
Can't do that.
Nope.
No, I didn't know.
No, unfortunately, once those have been approved, then that's the time frame. And if the town does not support the lease payment, then the piece of equipment, whatever it may be, goes back. And whatever money that has
I
been
didn't know
paid.
the answer, that's why I asked.
Yeah, no, it's
What
gonna,
do you do?
Most of them don't come out of the tax.
I'm saying, just you want to take money from something
I don't know.
to kind of offset.
okay, first
I
of
was just
all,
gonna ask
I
you-
was gonna suggest a 5-minute break.
One quick question, do we
Yes.
need a vote on the reduction that we're talking about making? Do we need that for the record? No? Okay.
I think we can do it all.
Well, I don't want to come in on Wednesday night and find out somebody wants another 0.5%.
No, we're looking for a,
So I'll make sure we're all in agreement with what the number's going to be when we go out of here tonight, that's all. 4%?
4% higher than the default budget.
4% plus
Higher
over the
than the
default
default
budget, 2022.
so the 4% for the default is right, there is a bigger
The last three numbers.
bigger amount we have to look for.
So we're looking, Brad, we're looking at a budget total with a 4% increase over the default budget of $3,871,000. Right?
Let me just double check
So
that.
you can do that by either increasing the default amount.
I'm a little higher than that, I'm coming with 3,881,433, 434.
But it's,
Just
yeah,
at just at plus 4% on
We
it.
gotta cut 182,000. That's it, just.
Oh, I'm coming up with more than that. I'm coming up with 203,000. Yeah. Well, nobody's said they're definitely going on a break. Let's take a break, guys. 5 minutes. Be back here at 9.
Breaker.
Back at 9, and we will,
So 30,000.
So I'm gonna
We're not working with that number.
I would like
We're working with the default number. So if I look at that, I'm looking at social security benefits, retirement benefits, life insurance, blah, 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 blah.
Okay, guys.
Folks, in any case, anybody's interested.
But if I look at the
this
front
week,
page,
go, and are now leading in
I'm not sure I know what the benefits pool is.
Well, if we
So was that the
get
highlights
let's
and
do
stuff?
this, we can be gone, we can be out of here fairly quickly, I think.
Okay.
All right, so everybody get out your warrant articles. The first one is for the, and I'm going to read these because they've got to be read into the record. Article 4, highway dump truck purchase. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $126,000 for the purchase of a six-wheel dump truck with plow, wing, and sander for the highway department, and to authorize the withdrawal of $126,000 from the highway equipment capital reserve account. This purchase replaces the existing 2006 six-wheel dump truck. No tax impact. Majority vote required. Recommended by the Board of Selectmen, 5-0. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Well,
Second.
all right, Mike Moore and Pam. Any discussion?
6 in the account, I think.
Okay, not seeing any.
I am actually.
Roll call vote. Tom?
Yes.
Brad?
Yes.
Tim?
No?
Mike Moore?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Betty?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Ted?
Yes.
Pam?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes?
Brian?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
And I am a yes. So we are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 11 yes, 1 no. There's 12 of us. Nope, I'm short somebody. Who am I short?
Betsy's not.
Oh, no. I know what it is. No, I know what it is. 12 to 1 is the count.
Yeah.
Okay, Article 5, communications equipment purchase. To see if the town will raise and appropriate the sum of $33,000 for the acquisition of communication equipment pursuant to the third and final year of the 3-year Fire Department Mobile Communications Equipment Replacement Plan. The plan will replace all our portable and mobile radios over the 3-year period. This purchase is in accordance with the town's capital improvement plan. Said amount to come from the unassigned fund balance as of December 31st, 2021. Tax impact is 0. Majority vote required. Recommended by the Board of Selectmen, 5-0. We have a motion. Tom?
I move Article 5.
We have a second.
Second.
Pam? Any discussion? Yes, Brad.
This is Article 5 we're talking about.
This is Article 5, correct.
Just a kind of a general question. There's like 6 warrant articles we'll be going over that have been taken out of the unassigned fund balance. Is there really $336,000 available? In the fund?
Like 3 million.
Yeah, close to 3 million, right?
Yep, there is. This is different than what we've been accustomed to as far as surplus at the end of the year. This is not from what's left over in the 2021 budget. This is what's in
Been accumulated over time.
that we've been accumulating over time,
Right. I
which we
understand that.
used to refer to as the general fund, and now it is the unassigned fund balance. Any other questions or discussion? Okay, seeing none. Tom?
Yes.
Okay. Brad?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
Mike Moore?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Betty?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Ted?
Yes.
Pam?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
And I am a yes. So that is 13-0. Article number 6, road construction, resurfacing, paving, and ditching. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $175,000 to be used for the construction, reconstruction, paving, and ditching and/or resurfacing of town roads and the refurbishing of ditches and culverts. Proposed town roads projects include paving, shimming, crack sealing, etc. on a portion of Bow Street, Jennis Pond Road, Old Pittsfield Road, Old Turnpike Road, and Ye Old Canterbury Road in accordance with the town's 2022 road plan. Said amount to come from the unassigned fund balance as of December 31st, 2021. Tax impact is 0. Majority vote required. Recommended by the Board of Selectmen, 5-0. We have a motion.
So
Tom and Betty. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none. Tom?
Yes.
Brad?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
Mike Moore?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Betty?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Ted?
Yes.
Pam?
Yes.
Jim?
Yep.
Brian?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
And yes, that vote is 13-0. Article 7, Route 4 Recreation Complex Improvements. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $27,000 to continue improvements to the complex, including but not limited to expansion of parking, improving drainage, ledge removal, looming and seeding, and general improvements to the existing fields. Said amount to come from the unassigned fund balance as of December 31st, 2021. Tax impact is 0. Majority vote required. Recommended by the Board of Selectmen, 5-0. Motion?
So moved.
Betty? And Tom is the second. Any discussion on Article 7? Okay, seeing none. Tom?
Yes.
Brad?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
Mike Moore?
Yes.
Stephen?
Yes.
Betty?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Ted?
Yes.
Pam?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
And I too am a yes. Vote is 13-0. Article 8, Town Master Plan Update. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $18,000 to begin the updating of the town's 2002 master plan. This sum will provide an update of the vision and land use chapters, which are the required sections. Revisions to the master plan are recommended every 5 to 10 years. Failure to update and keep a master plan current may put in jeopardy the legality of any ordinances that depend on a master plan. Said amounts to come from taxation. The tax impact is 3 cents. Majority vote is required. Recommended by the Board of Selectmen, 5-0. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Thank you, Tom and Betty. Any discussion?
I have a question. Well, most of the other ones that are 3 cents are 0.03. This is like 03 point, so I'm not really sure what.
I think it's a
Good point.
mistype, but it's supposed to be 3 cents.
Okay.
It's a good point on the point.
Yep.
I have something to say.
So, yeah, it should be 0. .03. You guys see that? Okay, just so for your final warrant, you can correct that. Yes, Tim.
I just wanted to remind everybody that we had about 10, 12 years ago, we tried to redo the master plan. We held a lot of meetings with the folks down at the community center. And unfortunately, for a variety of reasons, it never got completed. It's, almost 20 years old now. It's antiquated. We need to renew it. So that's why this is there. Thanks.
Any other questions or discussion? Good catch on that, Michael. Okay, Tom,
Yes.
Brad,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
Michael,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Betty,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Ted,
Yes.
Pam,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes?
Brian,
Yes.
Eric,
Yes.
and I am a yes. That vote is also 13-0 in favor. Article number 9, fire apparatus lease purchase payment. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $52,237 as the second payment on a 5-year lease purchase agreement for a tanker truck, with said funds to come from the Fire Rescue Vehicle Replacement Special Revenue Fund established for this purpose. If this article is defeated, the vehicle must be returned and the town loses the $300,000 down payment and the first year's payment. No tax impact, majority vote is required, and it's recommended by the Board of Selectmen 5-0.
So moved.
Thank you, Mike.
Second.
And Betty for the second. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none. Tom?
Yes.
Brad?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Betty?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Ted?
Yes.
Pam?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes?
Brian?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
And I am also a yes. That vote is 13-0. Article 10, ambulance lease purchase payment. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $26,225 as the second payment on a 7-year lease purchase agreement for an ambulance, with said funds to come from the Fire Rescue Vehicle Replacement Special Revenue Fund established for this purpose. If this article is defeated, the vehicle must be returned and the town loses the $100,000 down payment and the first year payment. No tax impact. Majority vote required. Recommended by the Board of Selectmen 5-0. Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Betty and Pam. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none. Tom?
Yes.
Brad?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Betty?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Ted?
Yes.
Pam?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes?
Brian?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
And I am also a yes. That vote is also 13-0. Okay, Article 11, highway dump truck lease purchase. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate a sum of $26,439 for the 4th year lease payment of the 7-year lease purchase agreement of a highway dump truck that was approved at the 2019 town meeting. If this is defeated, the vehicle must be returned and the town loses all the money it has spent in prior years. Tax impact is 4 cents. Majority vote required. Recommended by the Board of Selectmen 5-0. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Oops, whoever.
Who's got it?
I did.
Any discussion?
Get the next one, okay.
Okay, seeing none. Tom?
Yes?
Brad?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Betty?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Ted?
Yes.
Pam?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes?
Brian?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
And I am a yes. 13-0. Article 12, Highway Department backhoe lease purchase payment. See if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $20,298 for the fourth of 5 yearly payments for the lease purchase of the backhoe. This lease agreement was approved in 2018 and does contain an escape clause. So if the article is defeated, the vehicle must be returned and all prior expenditures will be lost. Tax impact is 3 cents, majority vote required. Recommended by the Board of Selectmen, 5-0.
Motion to approve.
And we have a second is Michael? Thank you. Let's jump in there, guys.
I have a question.
Yes, Tom.
This article makes mention of an escape clause. The previous article does not, but both say that if you want to return it, you can and lose all the money you've put in. Is it the case that there is no escape clause for Article 11?
Yeah.
Thank you. Can't escape.
Can't escape.
Can't escape.
You lose it.
Any other questions or discussion? Okay, seeing none. Tom?
Yes.
Brad?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Betty?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Ted?
Yes.
Pam?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes?
Brian?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
And I too am a yes. That is 13-0. Article 14, because 13 is not available yet. That waits until the end of the year. Article 14 is vested benefit expendable trust fund deposit. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $10,000 to be added to the benefit vested time expendable trust fund previously established. We don't have the current balance as of December 31st because interest and what have you still hasn't been computed to the end of the month. We will have that for our public hearing, I would presume. The tax impact is 2 cents. Majority vote is required. Recommended by the Board of Selectmen, 5-0.
Motion to approve.
We have to wait. Don't we have to wait?
No.
No, I'm sorry. Oh,
Would you like to second?
my question with these is...
We've got a second.
Second.
Thank you, Tom.
And
Now you
then-
can have your question.
My other question is, in addition to knowing how much is already there, do we at this point, given the changes in personnel and so forth, have any idea of what our exposure is?
I believe this was gone over at a selectmen's meeting that I was observing.
Walter, you have any idea what exposure is?
So right now, we recalculate that every year, based on people coming and going and so forth. So we haven't done that as of the year end at this point in time. But I can assure you that it's not close to, again, because you usually try to budget for a percentage of the worst case scenario. And I can assure you what we have now wouldn't cover, the worst case scenario.
So Linda can't leave. I mean,
That's
all.
correct.
That's
That would be
all.
devastating to this particular fund.
No, I've already told Linda she can't leave.
Can't leave.
Not until I do.
He's here for...
Then we'll go together.
Forever. Thank you.
Jim?
So I don't really care how much of it is at the end of the year. How much do we have in it now?
Do we have a figure right now, Walter?
Yeah, end of the third quarter, we have $43,925, I believe. Let me just double check that. Yes.
What's the worst?
I'm sorry, I take that back. It's $34,793.
What's the kind of worst-case scenario?
I don't have the total worst-case scenario right at the moment, but it was probably somewhere in the $100,000 range.
I thought that was the figure that I had heard when they were discussing it at
Yeah, it's in that range.
determining the amount they were going to put into the warrant article. And you can go back and watch the selectmen's work sessions online and know the exact amount they were talking about then.
That isn't going to help us now.
Well, the fact that they figure they're going to need close to 100 if the top people leave, you know, those that have been here the longest, happen to leave altogether, and they've only got 34,000 in there right now. They have to pay that money out when the person leaves, and if there isn't enough in that fund, it'll come out of the operating budget.
Exactly.
Right.
Which is always too much anyway, so.
But we're cutting it back here. Stop. Are there any other questions or discussion? Okay, seeing none. Article 14. Tom, how do you vote?
Yes.
Brad?
Yes.
Kim?
Yes.
All that and vote
Yes.
yes. Michael? Steve?
Yes.
Betty?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Ted?
Yes.
Yes.
Jim?
Yes?
Brian?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
And I am a yes as well. The vote is 13-0. Remember the old days when I used to just bounce around and nobody knew when I was going to call on them? We ought to go back to that. Article 15, Highway Equipment Capital Reserve Fund. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $40,000 to be deposited into the previously established Highway Equipment Capital Reserve Fund. Said amount to come from the unassigned fund balance as of December 31st, 2021. Current balance in this fund as of December 31st, 2021 is something. According to what we have here, it's a little over $126,000. Tax impact is 3 cents. Majority vote is required, recommended by the Board of Selectmen, 5-0. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, ladies.
Just, Madam Chair, a correction on that. There would be no tax impact. That should be stricken.
That was going to be my next question.
Ah, good point. I didn't catch that.
Unassigned fund, yep,
Okay.
0.
Hey, I'm just reading what's here, so, you know. And it's,
How did the tax impact of 3 cents get in there?
Probably from last year's warrant.
Good noticing.
yes.
Copy pasting gets you every time.
Are there any other questions or comments regarding Article 15? Okay, seeing none. Tom?
Yes.
Brad?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Betty?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Ted?
Yes.
Pam?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes?
Brian?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
And I am a yes. Tally is 13-0. Article 16, Police Equipment Capital Reserve Fund. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $6,000 to be deposited into the previously established Police Equipment Capital Reserve Fund. Current balance of this fund is, and we'll get that at the end of the year, tax impact 1 cent, majority vote required, recommended by the Board of Selectmen, 5-0.
Motion to approve.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second? Second. Thank you, Mr. Terry. Any discussion? Yes, Tim?
Do we know how much is in there now?
end of the third quarter. The amount of that is $23,142.
I'm always curious why, with all of the deficiencies that we have at the police department, that they don't go after a little more money from the town so that some of those things could be approved. I'm sorry to see this so low. Anyway.
We shall have to pass that along to the police commissioners.
Deliberative session, Tim.
Raise the
Yes, you can change the amount, you just can't change the intent.
Well, I'm just, I wish they could see it, you know, I just do. I mean, most of the departments in this town seem to be quite adept at going after what they want, except the police department. I'm often surprised that they don't ask for the money to do some things at the police department that are doable.
Well, this is police equipment.
All right, well.
As opposed to...
Would a new chair be equipment?
I'm sorry?
Would a new chair be
I suppose that
equipment?
would be.
And that's one of the things they need, is a new chair, so that they don't have to use an office chair to shackle their millions of people to. I'm just saying. I made no point. Yes.
Any other discussion or comments? Okay, seeing none. Tom?
Yes.
Brad?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Betty?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Ted?
Yes.
Pam?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
And yes, that vote is also 13-0. Article 17, we have to wait to get final year-end figures, so we go on to Article 18. Aquatic Invasive Species Prevention Expendable Trust Fund. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $7,000 to be deposited into the previously established Aquatic Invasive Species Prevention Expendable Trust Fund. Current balance in this fund, we will get that at the end of the year. Tax impact is 1 cent. Majority vote is required. Recommended by the Board of Selectmen, 5-0.
So moved.
Second.
Was that you, Mike?
Yes, it was.
Thank you. Do we have any questions or discussion? Tom?
Can you tell me what the lake associations are that are currently receiving the prevention monies and the amounts?
Not us.
Hmm? Anybody know? Hal, you know? Walter?
I believe on this particular one, it's $2,500 for Pleasant Lake, and I think the balance goes to Genesis Pond? No.
Yeah.
Yeah, Harvey Lake is new to it, right?
Right.
Correct. What were those amounts again, Walter?
Harvey Lake, Pleasant Lake,
And Genesis?
yes.
And they're splitting 7,000.
Different amounts, yeah, are going to different.
Do you know what the amounts are?
I don't have it right in front of me.
25, 45, and 1,000.
Thanks.
That's correct.
Yeah, glad Harvey Lake got on.
Any other questions or
It's
discussion?
$8,000, I don't,
I think it was 35, not 45.
It's close. It's very close to that.
It's only 7,000, so they'll have to divvy it up and somebody won't get as much as maybe they thought.
Plus, it's coming from the trust, so there's money in it already, so. Yeah, it's not, you're not raising the money for an instant expenditure.
Right.
So it can, what they're spending can be greater.
Other questions or excuse me, other questions or discussion? Okay, seeing nothing. Tom?
Yes.
Brad?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Betty?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Ted?
Yes.
Pam?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
And I am also a yes. Vote is 13-0. Article 19, Aquatic Invasive Species Treatment and Control Expendable Trust Fund. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $12,000 to be deposited into the previously established Aquatic Invasive Species Treatment and Control Expendable Trust Fund. Current balance will be as of December 31st. We'll find out that at the end of the year. Tax impact is 2 cents. Majority vote is required, and it's recommended by the Board of Selectmen 5-0.
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Betty. Do we have a
Second.
Thanks, Pam.
Awake.
Any discussion? Questions? Okay, seeing none. Tom?
Yes.
Brad?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Betty?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Ted?
Yes.
Pam?
Yes.
Jim?
Yep.
Brian?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
And I am a yes. That is also a 13-0 count.
That's two.
Article 20. Hang on. Gotta wet my whistle. Article 20 is Terrestrial Invasive Species Expendable Trust Fund. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $10,000 to be deposited into the previously established Terrestrial Invasive Species Expendable Trust Fund. Again, we will get the current balance as of December 31st. Majority vote is required. Tax impact is 1 cent. Recommended by the Board of Selectmen 5-0. What's your pleasure?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you, Steve. Betty? Any questions, discussion? Brad?
Yeah, just a question. This is, I think this was a new warrant article last year, the year before, and we funded it 5,000. There's $5,000 in that account now, and we're asking for another 10. Is there a game plan in motion here?
So what, if I may.
Yes, please.
So we've
I mean,
started.
is there some idea of where we're going with this money?
Yes, okay. So we started a program to address knotweed on our roadsides because it's becoming really invasive in a number of areas. And so this year, we expended actually $6,000 just on knotweed treatment alone. That's a two-step process on those particular areas, and there was a number of areas that we haven't addressed. And then also, we're still looking at, looking at the elm trees and trying to address those as they continue to be, killed off by the emerald ash borer.
The ash borers?
Thank you.
So then you don't have 5,000 in it if you spend 6, right?
We don't have 5,000, no, we spent all of that,
The end of September
Enough
was
to-
still 5, so you've spent it since then.
that's right,
Yeah.
yeah.
Bill came due since then. Are there other questions on the terrestrial invasive species? Okay, seeing none. Tom?
Yes.
Brad?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Betty?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Ted?
Yes.
Pam?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
And I am a yes. It is 13-0. 4 to go, folks. Article 21, Facilities Committee Expendable Trust Deposit. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $25,000 to be deposited into the Facilities Committee Expendable Trust Fund previously established for the maintenance, improvement, repairs, and replacement of general government buildings, including the Chesley Memorial Library. Said amount to come from the unassigned fund balance as of December 31st, 2021. Again, we will find out the current balance at the end of the year. Tax impact is 0. Majority vote is required. Recommended by the Board of Selectmen, 5-0.
Motion to approve.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thanks, Steve. Any discussion?
I have a question.
Yes, Betty.
Is there actually a facilities committee?
I resigned quite a while ago. I don't know if there's anybody left.
I don't think so.
Well, as far as I
Yeah,
know,
no.
I'm still on it.
Oh. Well, has the chair been in touch with you?
Uh-uh.
Okay then. So I don't know. I wasn't the chair.
I can say that I was at a selectmen's meeting when I felt that they disbanded it.
Right.
Okay.
Well, thank you for enlightening us. That would have been helpful to know at the beginning.
Yeah, it would have been nice as a member to know that
You were
I
no
wasn't a
longer
member.
needed. Right.
Hmm.
Okay. Any
Excuse
other
me, Madam
questions?
Chair, if I
I'm
could.
sorry?
Just to clarify, they didn't disband the committee. What they did is decided not to fill the vacant positions at this time.
How many people are left on the committee? Betty?
I thought I was.
Yeah, basically, Betty was the only one left.
Hey, Betty, tell us how you guys.
And the select board representative.
You just took over the committee. Congratulations.
You're chair and
How do you
vice
want to
chair
spend the
and
$25,000? Yeah.
and secretary and the
Go,
whole
girl.
shebang.
I could go on a trip.
Yeah.
Okay. Before we let her go off on her little daydreams, any other discussion or questions regarding the Facilities Committee Expendable Trust? Okay, seeing none. Tom?
Yes.
Brad?
Yes.
Kim?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Betty?
I suppose.
Kind of makes you wonder, do we want?
Oh.
Why do we need it if there's nobody there?
Uh-huh.
Paul?
Yes.
Ted?
Yes.
Pam?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes?
Brian?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
And yes, 13-0. Article 22, Information Technology Capital Reserve Account. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $15,000 to be deposited into the Information Technology Capital Reserve Fund for the maintenance and replacement of the town's computer hardware and software programs. We will find out the balance in the fund at the end of the year. Said amount to come from taxation. Tax impact is 2 cents. Majority vote is required, and it is recommended by the Board of Selectmen, 5-0.
Motion to approve.
Anybody want a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
I have a question.
Yes, Paul?
How is this different from all the line items in the operating budget I see for software and computer replacement?
One of the selectmen, Walter, somebody.
I can answer if you like. So this allows us to, if you recall in your packet, you received a update of our IT equipment needs and so forth in the package. As you can know, we're facing a significant increase, a cost coming up to replace our server and a number of other of our IT components. So this year, when the account was established, the money was used to purchase our new finance software. And so going forward, this will allow us to fund our other capital improvements out of this account. and not out of the operating budget.
So after this year, we shouldn't see any computers and software in the operating budget?
Again, it depends on what decision we make in terms of the IT direction we go in, whether we go, cloud-based servers, or if we go in-house, then we're going to need more money.
Other questions or discussion? Okay, seeing none. Tom?
Yes.
Brad?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Betty?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Ted?
Yes.
Pam?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes?
Brian?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
And I am also a yes, 13-0. Article 23, Road Improvement Expendable Trust Fund. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $50,000 to be deposited into the Roads Improvement Expendable Trust Fund for improvements to town roads, including but not limited to paving, installing and replacing culverts, tree removal prior to road work, crack sealing, ditching, grading, and full reconstruction, etc. Said amount to come from the unassigned fund balance as of December 31st, 2021. Said funds will be used for road improvement projects as outlined in the town's 2022 Road Surface Management Plan and for emergency road repairs as they arise. No tax impact, recommended by the Board of Selectmen, 5-0.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you, ladies. Discussion. Okay, seeing none. Tom?
Yes.
Brad?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Betty?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Ted? Pam?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes?
Brian?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
And I am a yes as well. Count is 13-0, and our last article is Article 25. Narrows Fire Station Pavement Replacement. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $35,000 to reconstruct the sub-base and repave all the existing paved areas at the Narrows Fire Station. Said amount to come from taxation. Tax impact is 5 cents. Recommended by the Board of Selectmen, 5-0.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Tim?
I want to bring up that if I thought this reconstruction was just going to be, sorry, I got to speak in, just going to be for a fire department at this location, I probably wouldn't vote for it. However, one of the selectmen asked me some time ago what I had as a vision regarding the police department and the fire department. I think he was curious because, as you know, I fought pretty hard against what they brought to us so far. And one of my vision is a safety complex at $3 million, and please don't tell me you can't do it, because I recently won a bunch of ice cream because they just finished one, or just about finished one up north at just under $3 million. So my point being, if we, and I'm kind of encouraged tonight, could get together as a town and come up with a workable plan on a safety complex that the town could approve, I vision this particular building as going to the highway department for their machinery. So that's why I'm going to personally agree to this expense, because I think we need this building in the future.
Oh, and then the transfer station can get the recycling building back.
I'm encouraged, is what I'm saying.
What a
You know, so there is hope. Now, Wednesday hasn't come and we haven't finished it, but I'm hopeful.
Okay. Any other questions or discussion? Okay, seeing none. Tom?
Yes.
Brad?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Betty?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Ted?
Yes.
Pam?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes?
Brian?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
And I am a yes as well, so that is 13-0. Okay, so for Wednesday evening,
Could I ask a question before you do that?
you may.
So, I just want to know from you on Wednesday evening, and I'm sure you're going to tell us, but, so I want some clarity. Are you looking for to the penny, or could someone say $100,000 out of the police department? Or do you need to know exactly what line? So in other words, are you looking for an answer, and I'm going to say similar to what the select board did with the library? Do you understand what I'm saying?
If we could just go through and say, your example, 100,000 from the police department and 30,000 from this department and whatever, we'd have done that already. We really need to be responsible and show which lines we would suggest a reduction,
Thank you.
as opposed to just the department total. Brad?
Just want to point out, in order to finish the final document going to the Department of Revenue,
Right.
it's got to be line by line.
Correct.
And that's our responsibility to do that.
Correct. And just so you are aware,
I'm sorry, so are we going to do that with the library?
we're going to be doing that with every department that where we think we can make reductions. So, just so you're aware,